My bank didn't send a warning. It didn't call. It didn't explain. It simply went silent. The week between Christmas and New Year's always feels strange, like time is holding its breath. Streets glow with leftover lights, people laugh louder than usual, and everyone pretends the next year will fix what this one broke. I was standing in my kitchen, phone in one hand, coffee cooling untouched, when my card declined for the third time. Not a big purchase. Groceries. Bread. Eggs. The cashier tried again, then glanced up with an apologetic smile that made my chest tighten. Behind me, someone sighed impatiently. I nodded, embarrassed, told her I'd put something back. I walked home carrying a single bag that felt heavier than it should have. At my apartment, I opened my banking app. Account temporarily restricted. No reason. No timeline. Just a sentence that felt like a locked door. I called immediately. After 6 minutes of hold music, a woman answered. Her voice was flat, practiced. "There's a review on your account," she said. "What kind of review?" I asked. "I can't see those details." "How long will it take?" "I don't have that information." "Can you transfer me to someone who does?" Pause. Said. "Someone will contact you." They didn't. "My name is Hannah Pierce, I'm 28 years old, and when my bank locked my money for a month, they assumed I had no leverage. At a New Year's party, one smart move turned their silence into panic. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts. It means more than you know." The next morning I went to the branch. The building smelled like lemon cleaner and old carpet. A man in a gray suit sat behind the desk, smiling the kind of smile that never reaches the eyes. "Your account is under compliance review," he said, folding his hands. "These things take time." "Time for what?" I asked. He tilted his head slightly, as if considering whether I was worth the explanation. "Security. My rent is due in 4 days," I said. He shrugged. "Unfortunate." That was the moment something shifted. Not anger. Not panic. Just clarity. They weren't confused. They weren't concerned. They simply didn't care. Over the next 2 weeks I called every other day. Emails went unanswered. When I visited the branch again, the manager pronounced my last name slowly, deliberately, as if tasting it. "Pierce," he said. "You need patience." Outside, winter wind scraped along the sidewalk. My breath came out thin and sharp. I remembered my father teaching me how to balance a checkbook at our old dining table, the smell of burnt toast in the air. "Money isn't just numbers," he'd said. "It's time. It's safety. Don't let anyone pretend it's small." By New Year's Eve, my fridge was nearly empty. I borrowed cash from a friend for gas. Pride tasted bitter, but hunger tastes worse. That night, I went to a New Year's party I almost skipped. The apartment was crowded, warm, loud. Music pulsed through the floor. People shouted over each other, clinking plastic cups, counting down to a future that felt far away from me. Near the balcony, a group was talking about banks. Frozen accounts. Endless reviews. Someone laughed bitterly. "They do it because they can," a man said. "Regular people don't have voices." I stepped closer before I could talk myself out of it. "They do," I said. "They just don't use them together." They turned toward me. Curious. I told them exactly what happened. No drama. Dates. Screenshots. Names. A woman nodded slowly. "My sister went through that," she said. "It took months." A man beside her frowned. "I work in compliance," he said quietly. "That sounds off." Another woman pulled out her phone. "Write it up," she said. "Clear. Clean. Facts only." I did. I posted a thread. Account frozen. No explanation. Calls ignored. Manager dismissive. Screenshots attached. I didn't insult anyone. I didn't speculate. I let the silence speak for itself. Someone reposted it. Then another. Then a local reporter liked it. As midnight approached, fireworks cracked outside, echoing off the buildings. My phone vibrated again and again, a steady pulse against my palm. Comments poured in. People tagging the bank. Sharing similar stories. Asking questions. By 12:37 a.m., the post had more attention than anything I'd ever written. I stood on the balcony, cold air on my face, watching strangers welcome a new year while my phone buzzed like it was alive. At 1:18 a.m. an unfamiliar number called. I didn't answer. At 7:41 a.m. another call came. Then another. Emails followed, marked urgent. By the time I walked back into the branch that morning, the atmosphere had changed. The receptionist avoided my eyes. The manager stood too quickly when he saw me. "Hannah," he said, suddenly warm. "Thank you for coming in." His office felt smaller than before. He shut the door carefully. "There's been a misunderstanding," he began. "No," I said calmly. "There's been exposure." He swallowed. "We'd like to resolve this immediately." "Good," I said. "So would I." He slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a statement confirming my account had been unfrozen. All funds restored. I didn't touch it. "I want to know why it happened," I said. A long pause. "An internal flag," he admitted. "A mistake." "By who?" His jaw tightened. "By me." The word hung in the air. "I made an assumption," he said quietly. "I didn't think it would escalate." I leaned back in my chair, steady. "You didn't think I mattered." Silence. Outside his office, a printer hummed. Somewhere a phone rang. Ordinary sounds in an extraordinary moment. "We'd like to offer compensation," he said quickly. "For the inconvenience." "How much?" I asked. He named a number. I shook my head once. "I want a written acknowledgement," I said. "That my account was frozen without cause. That communication was withheld. That harm was done." He hesitated, then nodded. "And the compensation?" he asked. I met his eyes. "You decide," I said. "What my silence is worth to you." His pen hovered, then moved. When he slid the paper back to me, the number was higher than I expected. I picked it up. "I'll consider this resolved," I said, "when the document is signed." It was. I walked out into pale January light, breath fogging the air. The city looked the same. But something inside me had shifted. They froze my money. They ignored my calls. They thought silence was power. They were wrong. The apology email arrived an hour after I left the branch. It was long. Carefully worded. Filled with phrases like regrettable experience and valued customer. I read it once, then closed it without replying. Outside, the city was waking up. Delivery trucks rattled down the street. A woman walked her dog past the cafe on the corner, breath puffing white into the cold air. Life kept moving, unaware that something fundamental inside me had shifted its weight. Naomi met me for breakfast, sliding into the booth across from me with 2 coffees. "So?" she asked. "So," I said, wrapping my hands around the mug. "They folded." She smiled, but it wasn't celebratory. It was thoughtful. "Good," she said. "They should." I stared out the window as steam curled upward. The smell of toasted bread filled the cafe, warm and grounding. 4 weeks, my world had shrunk to numbers on a screen and unanswered calls. Now it was slowly expanding again. By noon, the funds hit my account. Every dollar returned. The compensation followed an hour later, accompanied by a signed document acknowledging the freeze was unjustified. Seeing it there, black text on white paper, felt heavier than the money itself. It wasn't about winning. It was about being acknowledged. That afternoon, I paid my rent. I stocked my fridge. I bought groceries without checking my balance every 5 seconds. Ordinary actions, but each one felt deliberate, almost ceremonial. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, the hum of the heater steady in the background. I thought about how close I'd come to disappearing quietly like they expected. How easily silence could have swallowed me if I'd let it. A memory surfaced. I was 19, standing in line at a bank with my mother, watching a teller talk over her head, explaining things she already knew. My mother waited until we were outside, then said softly, "They think confidence only belongs to people who already have power." At the time, I hadn't understood. Now I did. The following week, the story spread beyond my control. A local paper ran a short piece. A consumer rights blog picked it up. Messages flooded my inbox. People thanking me, people asking what to do, people sharing stories that sounded painfully familiar. One message stayed with me. I thought I was alone, it read. I didn't think anyone would listen. I replied simply, "They will. Keep talking." The bank released a statement days later, vague and defensive. It didn't name me, but it didn't need to. The comments underneath told the real story. Dozens of people came forward. Accounts frozen. Calls ignored. Dismissive managers. A pattern. I wasn't special. I was just early. A week after that, Grant, the manager, called me again. His voice was careful, measured. "We've reviewed our internal processes," he said. "Changes are being implemented." "That's good," I replied. He hesitated. I wanted to say, "You handled this professionally." "I considered that." "No," I said finally. "I handled it honestly." Silence on the line. Then he said, "Yes, you did." When the call ended, I didn't feel victorious. I felt lighter. Like I'd put something down I'd been carrying without realizing it. Power, I learned, doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives quietly, wearing the shape of a decision not to be ignored. On the last night of January, I went back to the same apartment where the New Year's party had been. The music was lower this time. Fewer people. Someone passed me a drink I didn't really want. "You're the bank girl," someone said, half joking. I smiled. Apparently. They laughed, but there was respect in it now. Not admiration. Recognition. Later, standing on the balcony, I watched snow begin to fall. The city lights blurred behind it, soft and distant. I thought about the version of myself who stood in that grocery store line weeks earlier, cheeks burning with embarrassment. She didn't know yet what she was capable of. I took out my phone and scrolled past the old notifications, the frozen account alert, the unanswered emails. Then I deleted them. One by one. Not out of anger. Out of closure. My phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. "Thank you," it said. "I filed my complaint today." I replied with a single heart, then put the phone away. The future didn't feel loud or dramatic. It felt steady. Earned. Before going inside, I breathed in the cold air, sharp and clean. Somewhere below, a car horn echoed. Someone laughed. Someone argued. The city carried on, indifferent but alive. I thought about how institutions rely on our exhaustion. How silence is often mistaken for consent. How many people are taught subtly to stay small to avoid trouble. I wasn't small. I never had been. I just needed a moment to remember. As I closed the balcony door, warmth settled around me again. The heater clicked. The lights hummed softly. My home felt like mine in a way it hadn't before. Not because of money, but because of agency. If you've lived anything like this, tell your story. And don't forget to subscribe. Not because stories fix everything, but because silence never does. I turned off the light and let the darkness settle, calm and unthreatening. Tomorrow would come as it always did. But now it would arrive on my terms. Sometimes silence breaks itself.